jump straight into the F1 season launch. Now, this is an event that the FIA Formula One have been trying to get together for 75 years, and have just managed to do it where they've got everybody to launch their cars and team liveries at the same place. If you didn't know what it was about, except for those teams that did launch their liveries before this, and there were a couple that did that. I think Haas did it because they had a test day, and even though McLaren tested early, they
I was pretty
have the
disappointed
livery out.
that McLaren's livery and their race suits aren't for the season. I loved that, right? The race suit and livery in McLaren looked phenomenal.
Yeah, that black race suit
Yeah, it's
was fantastic. Probably the best one I've seen, but it would be very hot.
but they've got cool suits now, so they've got
Well,
air
they do. This
conditioning
is
for the
true.
first time. So you could take on a little bit of a hotter color.
This is true. They do. They did this huge launch. It was on 7 a.m. Local time yesterday morning. And I've got to tell you, I only watched about 15 minutes of it live because the time didn't work. And I know you were in a similar state. So I sat down, I watched a highlights package and thought this isn't enough detail. So I went through and watched the full 2 hour and 11-minute extravaganza.
And yep.
Yeah, I'm interested to get your thoughts on the event as a whole before we go in and have a look at the liveries individually.
It was a mixed bag. It was absolutely a mixed bag. Some of the teams' videos and entrances were phenomenal. Others looked like they were put together by a Year Nine media group.
The clip art.
Yeah, yeah. These are cash up racing balls. That was straight out of was it Channel Nine's Street Talk before the Footy Show?
Yep.
Like that was 100%, and it wasn't even as good as that was 20 years ago. So.
What did you think about the host? So I was talking earlier with one of our mates, and we were commenting about how rigid the FIA is. We spoke about the swearing rules and all that sort of stuff. And Jack's known for being a little bit loose.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But still, I mean, I would have loved to seen Ricky Gervais host it. That would have been monumental. But
He would
second
have been
choice,
banned from TV from forever, but
but
it would have
would
been
but
fantastic.
wouldn't have cared. But second choice, I mean, it's an interesting choice. It's not who I thought they would have gone with. But what did you think of how he went?
Eh, yeah, it was. I didn't think it was the vibe that they would have gone with. Like I didn't think he brought what I thought to the table. But at the same time, the complete opposite. I think with what he had to work with and the jokes that he did make and the things like that, it was as light humid or as humid as it could be with what I imagined a pretty strict uh, boundary for him to stick within.
I think that's probably a very fair assessment of it because the jokes. I mean, I've got a very dry sense of humor. Um, but the jokes were borderline just dad jokes a lot of the time, which is fine. But it's probably all he had to work with. So I think he actually did it overall a really good job at keeping what's pretty dry entertainment pretty interesting.
Yeah, and that's yeah, exactly. I feel like he would have been sat down and said, "You're allowed to say these 10 jokes reordered for 2 hours, and that's it, and that's why we got the humor that we did." And yeah, I think in the scheme of things, he did pretty well. Until he stripped down into that red suit, and then I was a little bit.
Yeah, that was an interesting one that for the cast to try and do in terms of a change of attire while he was doing it. But um, yeah, so I think he did a reasonably good job. So hats off to him for getting through that gig. The other thing I wanted to bring up was just to have a look at this lineup of musicians. I'm just shrinking this down here because I forgot to put this one on. So Machine Gun Kelly,
Oh man.
I'll go first on this. I said to you before the show, this will be the first F1 thing that he's been involved in that he actually remembers because the last time he was at the Formula One, I think he was on the dummy grid with Martin Brundle and he had no idea where he friggin' was. So um, I thought it was an interesting choice at the top of the show. why they got some dry old English prunes moaning about how joyful their life is and take that to conclude the show, I don't know. I would have left. And then the techno bloke in the middle. Anyway,
It
look,
was a
I thought overall,
it was a roller coaster.
I thought the
With
music choice overall, while they got four different genres, they could have just done without any of it, really. To be honest.
Yep. I feel like the cut scenes and the shows that the teams had produced and the music that came from those was enough to keep it sort of moving and keep it busy. Because I think if we just everyone just stood up there and be like, here's a car, here's another car, it would have gone dry pretty quick. So I think without the music acts, it would have been just as good as it was without like with them,
Yep,
because the cut scenes kept it fresh and kept it
absolutely.
moving.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
they didn't need to have a cutscene, an intro, a music, then a cutscene, and then an intro.
Yep.
Yeah,
But I guess they got to have time to change over, and I get all that, and change the car over, and the platform and all that sort of stuff. So I understand why they did it, but yeah, for mine, probably the thing that could have been left out of the whole show. So I did see this one in the clips. There's plenty of meme worthy content that came out of the whole thing, I think, but this was one that I think will get turned into plenty a meme, which is you can just see Jack while in the background here sizing something up. I'm not sure what it is. Lando looks totally unimpressed. Alonso looks unimpressed, as does Charles, although Charles has got a cheeky little smirk on his face. And Max looks like he already knew this information.
yeah. I was gonna
Um,
say it's
and
it looks like Lando's like my dirty little secret has been aired.
and Max's mate knows as well. He's laughing his
Yeah,
head off. So
big
I just
time.
had to chuck that one in there. So we'll have a look. Class of 25. So this is the quick rundown of all of the cars. We're going to go top to bottom here, and we're going to start out with Williams. Um, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I really like car design. It's a pretty play on from last year. It doesn't look like much of a change in the vehicle itself, however. Um,
I think the biggest change for Williams this year is that had this happened last year, they would have been presenting an Excel spreadsheet.
well,
Um,
they weren't ready. They weren't
no,
ready
not
yet.
at
No,
all,
no,
not at all. So
no.
um, I think what you said earlier about being excited about where Williams is at and where Williams is going this season, over the build up to the start of the season, they're the team I think actually that are probably going to do best out of the also rans. I don't know. There's just a feeling about them when you listen to James talk, the team principal about it. The drivers that they've got are capable drivers, obviously, and they're just way more organised than they were before. So yeah, I'm quietly waving a little Williams flag in the
With
background.
James at the helm as well. Like we know, he comes straight from Toto. He comes from the Mercedes pedicure. Pedicure. That's the wrong word.
Pedigree. It's fun.
Mercedes. Mercedes.
It's funny that you say that because of course they make dog food.
Yeah. Yep. Mercedes pedigree. So having that extra help and then spending the time in the season beforehand and preparing and that's so before very very excited to see how they go and always excited to see Williams do well.
Yeah, and of course Atlason, an Australian company, as their marquee name sponsor now as well. So another little Aussie connection there. Let's move on to Kick Sauber, who we did speak about at the top of the show. Look, their livery not a lot of difference to last season, and I still think an interesting team to watch just with their driver combination. Um,
Let's just hope that they get the wheel nuts threads correct this year.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But I mean, they're who knows? They can't do any worse than last season, obviously.
No.
So hopefully they've got something together, or they're working on a car for it next year. But only a very subtle livery change for them with the kick color running straight up over the halo, but not a lot else. Next, I've got these in a weird order. I probably should have done McLaren last, but McLaren's car. We've got a little bit more to talk about with McLaren later in the show, which is why I put it a bit early on. Thoughts?
I'm a big fan of McLaren's liveries. The last couple of seasons, I think since they've gone away from the solid orange, I think their car looks phenomenal.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think they did not the best, but probably the third best of all of the car intros.
Yep.
Because I love the whole McLaren backstory and Bruce McLaren and what he achieved and all and the McLaren company achieved on their way through with Formula One. So having the guys walk past the James Hunt World Championship winning McLaren, have go past the actually it wasn't, sorry, it was Emerson Fittipaldi's. My apologies, it wasn't Hunt, it was Emerson Fittipaldi's. And then walking past the likes of Hakkinen and Hamilton and what have you. That was really cool from a loving the old cars type of things, and that helps because sorry, not James, Zach Brown owns those. So even though they're McLarens, I think one of them is in his personal collection. So yeah, I thought they did a really good job.
I think it's from all the hatings out of McLaren that we've done. It's probably interesting to know we're actually both pretty fond of McLaren as a
Oh,
team.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely I am. So just not so much of necessarily both the drivers. Um, Moving on to Alpine. So they've done a little bit of weight loss program here because Jack looks exactly the same. And again, this might be just so they can change him into Pierre's car when Pierre's out of a seat. But um, that's their new weight saving. Their car, I didn't actually get a picture of it. I'll just bring it back up in the class of 25. It is the one on the bottom left. They've just basically added blue instead of pink to their livery. The car looks very smart. It really does. And again, another team that we're following closely this season.
I do like how Williams drivers both don't have appendixes and now Alpine's drivers both don't have hair. So they're just trying to save weight where they can.
You got to do what you can, right? Like
Yeah, exactly.
there's a weight minimum. You've got to meet it one way or the other. Red Bull. So I am pretty sure that this bloke designed Red Bull's livery this year because I can't. And it actually looks like an old fat Christian Horner. So if Christian Horner's doing the livery design, this is why it looks basically exactly the same as it did last season, and the season before that, and the season before that. So they're certainly trying to maximise the cap at Red Bull by not spending a lot of money on needless things like designing liveries.
No, yeah, and I'm not sure who Christian Horner is, but I know it was that Jerry Holloway's plus one.
Yes, it was.
Hollowell's plus
Yeah,
one.
yeah, absolutely. Probably the only funny joke he told. Moving on, we split it up a bit here. We've got Mercedes. Their car just almost actually looks the same as the Aston Martin, but they did it first. Yeah, not a lot to say about them this season other than they're both very
There's
thankful to have a seat.
there's there's not a lot of difference mechanically with those cars either, considering they're both running the same powertrain.
This is very true.
Uh,
The car that everyone was speaking about with the driver combination everyone wanted to speak about is Ferrari. It looks like a Ferrari. It's red. But I think Enzo would be turning in his grave with how much HP white is on his car.
it's still gone to that off burgundy red as well
Mm.
on that new color. They've gone away from that red,
Yep.
which I thought they might have gone back to this season.
Yeah, well, it'll be yeah. Like it was ironically, it was Enzo's birthday during the live event. 18th of February, I think it was 1898. He was born, just to make you feel like we've had Formula One around for a long time. But I thought they might have gone back to a more classic,
Yeah.
like 1950s Ferrari red, just because it's 75 years, and obviously they're the only manufacturer that's been involved in it since the start. I thought they might have done something like that, but I guess at the end of the day, semantics. For them, they're wanting to win a world title. They're not interested in what the likes of you or I think about their livery. Aston Martin, they've just added some spokey dokes to the wheels for Lance's bicycle.
Do you reckon they make noise as he rolls around?
Absolutely.
Make it sound like a real car.
I'm looking forward to hearing about the internal complaint he lodges with HR because he was upstaged by the old fogey that races with him. Like, he said three things, which was great to be here. And then Alonso just upstaged him and said, now the most, what did he say? The most attractive car's now been launched. You can all enjoy the rest of your night.
Yeah.
So, but look, I mean, Aston Martin's Aston Martin. I think they're planning for next year.
And Alonso's Alonso. I don't think he would Yeah, I don't think he would ever let be upstaged in that sort of way. But uh, it was good to see that dynamic in public.
As I said, the launch that they did, thought it was really dry. I thought it was really boring. Um, but the lady that they had sing
Oh yeah,
was amazing. Outside of the fact that it probably didn't fit the dynamic, but yeah, her voice was fantastic. And as I said, I think Daddy Stroll finally realised where all the money he'd been spending went, which was to get her to sing at their launch.
yeah. Uh, like how you said that the dynamic of the show though, because I don't think there was a dynamic of the show. It was so all over the shop that you could have had a circus play in the middle of it with juggling fire or something, and it would have fitted as well.
And I guarantee you as well that when they were talking about it and they're throwing around ideas, that Lance was jumping up and down in the corner of the marketing department meeting saying, I want to be James Bond. And that's why they've done it. I mean,
So Daddy Stroll's
aside of
actually
the Aston Martin tie up with James Bond, let's ignore
that,
that bit.
that has nothing to do
Nothing to
with
do with
it.
it.
No, Daddy Stroll found his diary from when he was 10 years old, and it said, when I grow up, I want to be James Bond." And he's like, "Oh, son, this is how we can do it."
And we didn't talk about it. I'll go back very, very quickly. Red Bull, their video
Oh, that was phenomenal.
was that Liam Lawson at the start in a Toyota GT 2000?
I've missed that if it was.
I'm pretty sure it was. I didn't have time to go and get snippets of the footage, but I'm pretty sure he's the first car in that whole setup of following the truck. And then to get, obviously, I don't know who most of those people were, but they're obviously social media influencers or influencers in the car scene. But to get so many different types and genres involved in it, I thought they did a fantastic job.
Red Bull have their hands in everything, and when it comes to like, they're more of a
Didn't think of that.
action sports brand than they are an energy drink at this stage.
Yep.
They've done everything, so to incorporate like drifting, the hydro cars, like you've got all
Like bikes.
the BMX riders in the tunnel, the low ride, like all that stuff, all to come together. Um, I mean, obviously, it would have taken the guy that made the video one phone call, go, "Hey, it's me from Red Bull Marketing. Do you want to come and make a video?" And everyone's going to jump at it because, as I said, they've got their hands in everything. So to sort of get that all together was really, really cool. And to have that, no matter what walk of life you're from, because there was so many different
Yeah,
nationalities,
very true.
so many different likes. Like every car was different, the builds were different. Went from classic, big lumpy V8s and stuff to lowered tilty wheels and neons. Like it had everything. So to have that all rolled together, to then have them walking all in, I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I think they did a fantastic job. Definitely the equal best, I think, of all of the launches. I did think, and we didn't touch on it. I thought Mercedes was all right. I thought Ferraris was pretty good as well. But yeah, I think Red Bull probably did the best job in the intro.
I know I touched on the dryness of the V carb one, but the V carb livery I thought was
Ooh,
really good.
we're getting there.
Oh, sorry.
Keep your powder dry, sir. We are getting there. We'll just touch on Huss.
Oh, yep.
But for me, the only real change in their livery is they've added water to it. Um, that's pretty much all I found out. But obviously, they've inverted the colours a little bit. And
That was just to show that they have grip in the wet.
yeah, so I thought their intro, I didn't realise 10 years in Formula One this year for Huss,
It's gone
which
very quick.
and an incredible achievement. And they did say that when they had, I think it was a rapper, the guy that country singer. I'm not sure who he was, but when they had him talking through their introduction, he was spot on in saying, Huss, who used to run in F2 only and a very small team. I think Jean Huss manufactures CNC equipment as a company or something similar to that. And it's a massive achievement to still be in the sport 10 years later.
And they're still the smallest team in terms of employees and like staff and team and everything like that. They are still the smallest team. So yeah, I enjoy watching Haas. I really, really do. So let's let's see if they can get further this year.
Yeah, I don't think it's a team that anyone actually hates when they have some success.
No.
So here we are.
Oh, there it is.
So definitely for mine. In fact, this was the one that I was going to put up for you.
Yeah. Yes.
Um,
It is. It just is.
It is an absolutely fantastic.
Cla- Formula One car. That's what that is.
And to see if you go back and look at the footage, and I think there's some pictures getting around of it as well. Isaac Hadjar hadn't seen the car, and so
Oh,
the,
really?
the
Okay, yeah,
the look on his face when he revealed it tells you
genuine.
how much he thought of it. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. Just jaw on the ground. However, I was like, why does that car look so bloody familiar? And then I remembered it's because it used to be a Red Bull livery back in 2021. So I revert to my previous comment about Red Bull, even though they're not Red Bull, saving as much money as they can on livery design because they just flipped back through the archives and went, "Oh well, here you go, Yuki, you can have this one," and that's where they've done it. And
it's gonna
look where
have
that.
blown out a couple of the old racing suits as well. Do these fit?
Well, they would have had to put them through the dryer a few times to get them to fit Yuki, but
Yeah.
yeah, there you go. So. Not pretty ominous though, because that Red Bull that I found the picture is parked on the grass. So
Yes.
we'll see. And I did like how Yuki said that one of the features that he liked the most about the new livery is that he hopes that the team don't have to scrape too much gravel out of the car during the season.
Yeah.
And they wonder why he didn't get the main driver's seat.
There's
I wonder
there
why.
is no
Wonder why.
he's had so much time to learn how to talk to a camera, and there's certain people that know how to do it, and certain people that can't. And there's certain people that just don't want to. Kimi Raikkonen comes to mind,
But
where
he's still awesome at it because he doesn't want
abs-
to be there.
incredible at it, but he doesn't. You can tell when he wanted to say certain things, and he just had the sunnies on and looked, and that was it. And
Yeah.
he didn't have to say anything, so he
No.
didn't implement himself any further. Yuki would have shot himself in the foot twice in the off season if he raced for Red Bull.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, anyway, we'll see how he goes as the
I
co-driver.
I did also like the VCarb amp up man that was walking around on the street telling them that VCarb had 6 foot drivers, two of them put together. I was really, that whole thing was very interesting. I wasn't sure if it was working for them or against them.
Yeah, it wasn't one of the highlights for me. That was actually where I turned off early this morning. And there's one livery that they didn't reveal that I wanted to just throw out there, which is this one here,
Yeah,
which
yes.
is the
I don't know why they haven't got this one out
the
there.
Cadillac livery for Danny Rick and Sergio Perez for next season. So just put that one out there. Apparently, it's happening. So you got to believe everything you see on the internet. But yeah, this is I literally brought this up right at the end because if that happened, talk about marketing in America
Oh,
for Danny Rick, and obviously Sergio's Mexican, but the side of the wall, they're all good there. So this would be huge. But I saw this car and I thought it looks absolutely fantastic. And I was hoping that there might be some sort of comparison within the liveries that were launched, but there wasn't really. But yeah, I just that one there. So just quickly, obviously, I think it's a dead set giveaway. Which one is your favorite livery of the launch?
yes, absolutely. Which is conflicting. It's so conflicting that the favorite car I like, I don't think much more of it. So, but
No,
the yeah V Carb livery was awesome.
yeah, I agree. I think they nailed it. And I think Red Bull nailed the intro. But I think, as you said as well, all of the teams did a good job getting stuff together. They're not at the end of the day. That's not the entertainment field they're in. But I think they did a good job. Success or prefer not to see it again?
Stepping stone.
Yep.
I think they need to. I think it was really good. I think they can take some positives from it and have that entertainment side of it because as we've seen with like we've spoken about Drive to Survive and bringing more people to the show and things like that. There's things. This is the type of stuff that will bring more people to watch Formula One. They will continue to sell out stands, will continue to sell merch and things like that for the people that weren't exactly in it and they understand more and they learn the teams. I think they just need to iron it a little bit.
A question without notice. What would you like to see them bring into it? What do you think? What
Let
do you think could make it better?
less, I think less time. Um, the driving videos and everything like that was great, but I think less time with the presenters and that sort of thing, and more times with the drivers, I think would be more so.
Because I think you've landed on a really interesting point, which is the drive to survive all of sport, because that's the first one that did it. But then there's been others since. There's been one about
Yep.
tennis that no one watched. Um,
I was about to ask what was there.
there was one about golf, which I had a look
Hmm.
at. But Drive to Survive, and I think some of the characters in it are the reason why it was so successful. But that has given Formula One, if they hadn't had it before, a backhand to the face about what fans need to get engaged in the sport. And that what they need is the same thing that everyone's looking for at the moment in all of the media they consume, which is authenticity.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think that last night wasn't authentic. And I think the difficulty that that F1 have got with trying to create something authentic is the F1 themselves. Because of the rule and the behaviour expectations of drivers as model citizens. And I didn't bring it up, but one of the other things I had in the file for this week was, the really really tall Red Bull pit guy who's got the dreadies.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Yep.
So,
I think I know the one you're talking about.
so
The clip that he put there, the comment
yeah,
he put out.
that he
Yep.
came out and said basically it's not Formula One's job to educate or to rule with my children. That's my job to
It,
make an example as their parent. I think that's what F1 needs to get away from doing. And if they put on, if the one thing that I would ask, that I would suggest that they do for the show next year is to make it more authentic, and even down to the presenter, who we've already said did a really really good job with, I'm sure, a very strict set of rules. It was inauthentic for the way he normally is, presenting the way that he did,
yeah. Absolutely.
and that hurt it.
Yep. Yeah. Completely agree. And I don't mean like to go off the other end and make it completely loose, but there needs to be, yeah. I think bringing the drivers in, having the conversations with the drivers, and having a little bit of banter amongst the drivers themselves shows that they're human and shows all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, look, I think they did a good job overall. Looking forward to see what they do for F1 76 or 16, depending on which way they go with the logo.